Welcome to African Folktales by Tammy. Please don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more interesting stories. Also share this story to someone who might be interested. Let's get into the story. Isaac Adebanjo was a man of humble beginnings, born and raised in the small town of Iludun. His charming looks, smooth-talking nature, and a smile that could disarm even the most skeptical had always been his greatest assets. For Isaac, life had been about survival, and he learned early on that charm could open doors that hard work might never reach. He was working as a manager at a modest hotel in Olorunda City when fate brought Zara into his life. Zara Adeyemi was everything Isaac had always dreamed of. She was beautiful, confident, and most importantly, wealthy. Her late parents had been successful entrepreneurs who built a thriving chain of businesses, leaving their only child with enough wealth to last several lifetimes. Zara's aura of grace and her generosity made her beloved by many, but it also made her an easy target for opportunists. Isaac first met Zara when she checked into the hotel for a weekend retreat with her friends. She stood out in the crowd, her laughter echoing through the lobby as she joked with her friends. Isaac, ever the opportunist, quickly introduced himself under the guise of offering exceptional service. "Welcome to Evergreen Suites, miss," Isaac said, his voice dripping with warmth. "Zara," she replied, smiling politely. Isaac made it his mission to ensure Zara's stay was perfect. From arranging her meals to surprising her with a bouquet of her favorite flowers, which he discovered through some discreet inquiries, he left no stone unturned. Zara was impressed by his attentiveness and seemingly genuine kindness. By the end of the weekend, Isaac had managed to charm his way into her good graces. Their paths crossed again a few weeks later at a charity event in Lagos. Isaac claimed it was a coincidence, but in reality, he had gone out of his way to find out where Zara would be. They spent the evening talking, and Zara found herself drawn to his wit and charisma. Isaac, on the other hand, saw an opportunity. Over the next few months, Isaac courted Zara with relentless determination. He showered her with compliments, surprise dates, and heartfelt gestures. He seemed to understand her in ways others didn't, and his humility made him seem like a breath of fresh air compared to the men who often pursued her for her wealth. When Zara's friends expressed their concerns about Isaac's intentions, she brushed them off. "Isaac is different," she insisted. "He doesn't care about my money. He's a good man." Isaac proposed 6 months later during a private dinner at a high-end restaurant in Alafia Hills. The ambience was magical, soft candlelight, a violinist playing in the background, and a breathtaking view of the city's skyline. Isaac knelt before Zara, holding a diamond ring he had saved for months to buy. "Zara Adeyemi, you are the love of my life. I promise to stand by you through thick and thin. Will you marry me?" Tears welled up in Zara's eyes as she nodded. "Yes, Isaac, 1,000 times yes." The room erupted in applause as Isaac slid the ring onto her finger. For Zara, it was the beginning of a fairy tale. For Isaac, it was the culmination of months of planning. Their wedding was the talk of the town. Held at the Grand Oasis Gardens in Odogun City, it was a lavish affair attended by the creme de la creme of society. Zara looked stunning in her custom-made gown, and Isaac played the role of the devoted groom to perfection. But behind the smiles and vows, Isaac was already scheming. The inheritance Zara's parents left her was vast, and he intended to get his hands on it. He told himself it was for a better future, that he deserved to live a life of luxury. The first year of their marriage was blissful. Isaac showered Zara with love and attention, convincing her friends and family that he truly adored her. But beneath the surface, cracks were beginning to form. Isaac had set his son Zara's business empire, and his plan was already in motion. Zara Adeyemi woke up every day in the first year of her marriage believing she had found her soulmate. Isaac was attentive, caring, and seemed to love her deeply. He knew how to make her laugh on difficult days and never failed to surprise her with little tokens of affection, a handwritten note, her favorite dessert, or a weekend getaway to serene locations like Amberville Resort. To Zara, Isaac was everything she had ever prayed for in a husband. But Isaac's love was calculated. Every smile, every touch, every act of kindness was part of a larger scheme. He had convinced himself that his intentions weren't entirely selfish. After all, he reasoned, wasn't he providing Zara with the love and stability she needed? If he took control of her wealth, wasn't it for their mutual benefit? These thoughts kept his conscience at bay, though cracks in his mask occasionally threatened to appear. Zara's friends remained wary. Her closest friend, Amaka, was particularly vocal. "Zara, something about Isaac doesn't sit right with me," Amaka said one afternoon as they sipped iced tea on the terrace of Zara's mansion in Lushwood Estate. "He's too perfect. It's like he's trying too hard." Zara shook her head, a soft smile on her face. "Amaka, you've always been skeptical. Isaac is genuine. He loves me for who I am, not for what I have." "Are you sure?" Amaka pressed. "Men like Isaac are rare. Just be careful." Zara dismissed Amaka's concerns, confident in her husband's sincerity. She believed Isaac's humility and background made him immune to the greed that plagued other men she had encountered. Meanwhile, Isaac had begun to embed himself in Zara's business. At first, it seemed harmless. Zara had invited him to attend board meetings at Adeyemi Holdings, the company her parents had founded, so he could understand her world better. He listened attentively, asked questions, and offered suggestions that seemed insightful. "Your husband has a good business mind," one of the directors had remarked to Zara after a meeting. "He's a quick learner," Zara was proud. Isaac seemed genuinely invested in helping her grow the company. What she didn't know was that Isaac had begun gathering information, names of key personnel, details of major investments, and most importantly, the structure of her inheritance. Isaac's charm extended beyond Zara. He built relationships with her employees, always presenting himself as the loving, supportive husband. But there were subtle signs of his true nature. One evening, Zara overheard Isaac speaking sharply to her secretary, Linda. "Don't forget who's in charge here," he had snapped. When Zara asked him about it, Isaac brushed it off. "I was only trying to emphasize the importance of a deadline. You know how these things go, my love." Zara nodded, accepting his explanation, though a small seed of doubt began to take root in her mind. As time went on, Isaac began to make subtle suggestions about consolidating her assets. "You're so busy, Zara," he would say. "Why don't you let me handle some of the more tedious tasks? That way you can focus on the big picture." Zara hesitated but eventually agreed, grateful for his support. She gave him limited access to certain accounts and allowed him to oversee minor projects. Isaac's control grew slowly, almost imperceptibly, as he manipulated situations to make himself indispensable. Despite his growing influence, Isaac remained careful not to raise suspicion. He lavished Zara with love and attention, ensuring she remained blinded by his affection. But behind closed doors, his greed was taking over. Isaac began funneling money from the company into a secret account, disguising it as expenses for new investments. He also started laying the groundwork for a hostile takeover, identifying employees who could be swayed to his side. Zara remained oblivious to his schemes, her trust in him unwavering. But cracks were beginning to show in Isaac's facade. His temper flared more often, and his excuses for spending late nights at the office became less convincing. One evening, Zara found herself alone in their expansive living room, staring at a framed photo from their wedding day. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Isaac had been distant lately, and while she tried to dismiss it as work-related stress, a nagging voice in her head wouldn't let her rest. Isaac returned home late that night, reeking of alcohol. Zara confronted him, her voice trembling. "Isaac, what's going on? You've been so different lately." Isaac sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Zara, I'm under a lot of pressure. Managing the company while trying to be the perfect husband isn't easy. I'm doing this for us, please trust me." His words calmed her for the moment, but the seed of doubt had begun to grow. In the shadows of their seemingly perfect marriage, secrets were festering. Zara's world was about to unravel, and she didn't even see it coming. Zara's life continued to shimmer on the surface, but beneath the gilded facade of her marriage, doubts gnawed at her. Isaac's absences were becoming more frequent, and his explanations, once soothing, were beginning to feel rehearsed. Her friends, especially Amaka, had not relented in their suspicions, but Zara refused to entertain their warnings. "Amaka, you don't see what I see. Isaac is stressed because he's trying to support me," Zara would argue, clutching at the memory of the man she fell in love with. Yet, late at night, alone in the cavernous silence of their mansion in Lushwood Estate, Zara couldn't help but feel the weight of something amiss. The laughter that once filled their home had grown scarce, replaced by Isaac's clipped tones and strained expressions. But every time she confronted him, he would deflect with honeyed words that momentarily soothed her fears. "Zara, you're overthinking this," he would say, pulling her into his arms. "You mean everything to me. I'm just trying to protect what we've built." Despite his reassurances, Zara couldn't shake the unease. Isaac's activities, however, were far darker than she imagined. With his newfound influence in Zara's company, he had begun restructuring her empire to suit his desires. He secretly terminated loyal employees under the guise of budget cuts and replaced them with individuals who owed their loyalty to him. His manipulation extended to board meetings, where he subtly steered decisions that favored his plans. One of Isaac's most cunning moves was hiring Linda, Zara's secretary, as his mistress. Linda, ambitious and eager to climb the social ladder, willingly became complicit in his schemes. Together, they orchestrated financial diversions, signing documents Zara hadn't even realized she had authorized. "Linda, we're almost there," Isaac whispered one night in the dimly lit confines of a luxury hotel in Alafia Hills. "Soon, everything she owns will be mine. She won't even see it coming." Meanwhile, Zara threw herself into charity work to distract from the growing distance in her marriage. At an event hosted by the Bright Futures Foundation, where she was a patron, Zara found solace in helping children and young women achieve their dreams. It gave her a purpose beyond her business and her crumbling relationship. One evening, as Zara reviewed documents for an upcoming charity project, she noticed discrepancies in her company's financial reports. Certain funds were unaccounted for, and several major decisions had been made without her consent. She called Isaac immediately. "Isaac, there's something wrong with these reports." "Have you noticed anything?" Isaac hesitated for a fraction of a second before replying. "Don't worry, Zara. I've already looked into it. It's probably just a clerical error. I'll handle it." But Zara wasn't convinced. For the first time, she felt a pang of distrust. She decided to quietly investigate on her own. A week later, Zara was scheduled to attend a high-profile business summit in Coral City. She planned to use the opportunity to consult with trusted advisors about the anomalies in her company's finances. Isaac, however, had other plans. The night before her departure, Isaac and Linda met at a secluded bar in the outskirts of town. "She's starting to suspect something," Isaac murmured, his jaw tight. "We need to slow her down." Linda raised an eyebrow. "What are you suggesting?" Isaac's eyes darkened. "An accident, something minor to keep her out of the picture for a while." Linda hesitated but eventually nodded. "I'll make the arrangements." The following morning, Zara's driver took an unusually winding route to the airport. She was running late and didn't question the detour, assuming it was to avoid traffic. But as the car sped along the isolated road of Pinecrest Drive, something felt wrong. Suddenly, the brakes failed. The car careened off the road, slamming into a tree. Everything went black. When Zara woke up days later in a hospital room, she was met with Isaac's tear-streaked face. "Thank God you're alive," he said, gripping her hand tightly. She tried to sit up but realized she couldn't feel her legs. Panic set in as the doctor entered and explained her condition. "You've suffered significant spinal injuries, Mrs. Adebanjo. We are hopeful, but it may take time before you regain mobility." Zara's world crumbled. She was confined to a wheelchair, reliant on others for even the simplest tasks. Isaac, at first, appeared to be the perfect husband, staying by her side and assuring her that everything would be fine. But his patience wore thin within days. "I've hired a nurse to take care of you, Zara," he announced one morning, his tone devoid of warmth. "I have to focus on running the company." Zara felt a pang of betrayal, but convinced herself it was for the best. She didn't want to be a burden. Isaac, however, saw her condition as an opportunity. With Zara out of the way, he tightened his grip on her empire. He began selling off assets, transferring funds into offshore accounts, and solidifying his control. He believed he had won. But Zara, though broken, was not defeated. She silently vowed to uncover the truth and take back what was hers. Weeks turned into months, and Zara's vibrant world shrank to the confines of her wheelchair and her sprawling mansion. The laughter and light she had brought into every room dimmed, replaced by long hours of solitude and despair. Isaac, who had once been her pillar of support, was now a shadow of the man she believed she married. He barely spent time with her, claiming the company demanded his full attention. The nurse he hired, a stoic middle-aged woman named Esther, attended to Zara's physical needs but offered little companionship. Esther was efficient but distant, a far cry from the warmth Zara craved. Left alone with her thoughts, Zara began to piece together the fragments of her suspicions. The financial discrepancies in her company, Isaac's increasingly controlling behavior, and the inexplicable circumstances of her accident gnawed at her mind. She had trusted Isaac with everything, and now that trust felt like the rope tightening around her neck. One afternoon, as Zara stared out of the window at the perfectly manicured gardens, Amaka paid an unexpected visit. Seeing her best friend in a wheelchair brought tears to Amaka's eyes, but Zara managed a weak smile. "Amaka, you shouldn't cry. I'm alive, aren't I?" Zara said, trying to inject some humor into the situation. Amaka sat beside her and took her hand. "Zara, I've been worried about you. Something doesn't feel right about all this, about Isaac." Zara looked away, her voice trembling. "Isaac is doing his best. He's running the company, taking care of everything. I can't blame him for being distant." Amaka leaned closer, her voice low. "Zara, don't be blind. Isaac isn't who you think he is. I've been hearing things. People are saying he's selling off company assets, siphoning money into private accounts. He's changed the board members, Zara. They're all his people now." Zara's breath hitched. She had noticed changes but dismissed them as necessary adjustments. "No, he's just trying to keep the company afloat," she argued weakly. Amaka shook her head. "And what about Linda? Don't you think it's odd how close she's become to Isaac? I've seen them together, Zara, late nights, private meetings. He's not the man you married." Zara's hands trembled as doubt turned into dread. Could Amaka be right? Had she been blind to Isaac's true nature? After Amaka left, Zara decided to act. With Esther's help, she began accessing the company's records, digging into the financial transactions Isaac had kept hidden. It wasn't easy. Isaac had changed the passwords to key accounts, but Zara was resourceful. She contacted an old IT specialist from her company, someone she trusted implicitly, and asked for his assistance. Over the next few weeks, Zara uncovered a chilling pattern. Isaac had been systematically stripping her company of its assets. Properties had been sold without her knowledge, funds diverted to offshore accounts, and critical decisions made in her absence. It was clear Isaac was orchestrating a hostile takeover of everything her parents had built. The betrayal cut deep, but what shattered Zara was the discovery of Linda's involvement. Emails between Isaac and Linda detailed not only their financial schemes, but their affair. Linda had been complicit in feeding Isaac information, forging Zara's signature, and manipulating key employees to align with Isaac. Zara's heart ached with a mix of fury and pain, but she wasn't ready for the final blow. One night, as Isaac slept in the guest room, his excuse being that Zara's condition made it difficult to share a bed, she crept into his study. She found his private journal tucked away in a drawer. As she flipped through the pages, her hands shook. There, in his own handwriting, Isaac detailed his plan to gain control of her empire. What made Zara's blood run cold was a specific entry dated 2 days before her accident. "Linda has arranged everything. The driver knows what to do. It'll look like brake failure, just enough to scare her, to keep her out of the way for a while. Once she's incapacitated, I can make my moves without interference." Zara dropped the journal, her breath coming in ragged gasps. Isaac had orchestrated her accident. The man she loved, the man she trusted with her life, had put her in a wheelchair. She spent the rest of the night sobbing, her mind racing. She couldn't confront him, not yet. She needed a plan. She needed to reclaim her life and her company. Most of all, she needed to make Isaac pay. The next morning, Zara called Amaka. "I need your help," she said, her voice steady despite the storm brewing inside her. Amaka didn't hesitate. Tell me what you need, Zara. I've got your back." For the first time in months, Zara felt a glimmer of hope. She might have been broken, but she wasn't defeated. The game was far from over. Zara Adeyemi was no longer the naive, trusting woman who believed in fairy tales. That version of her died the night she read Isaac's journal and learned the depths of his betrayal. As the first rays of dawn seeped through her bedroom curtains, Zara stared at her reflection in the mirror. Her once vibrant eyes now burned with resolve. Isaac had underestimated her, and now it was her turn to play the game. The first step in her plan was secrecy. Zara knew that if Isaac even suspected her knowledge, he would accelerate his schemes. She needed him to believe she was still the helpless, grieving wife who had no clue about his true nature. She called Amaka to lay out her plan. "We need to move carefully, Amaka," Zara said over the phone, her voice low and steady. "Isaac can't know I'm on to him. I need you to be my eyes and ears outside the house." Amaka agreed, her tone firm with determination. "Whatever you need, Zara, he won't see it coming." Zara also contacted Chidi, her family's trusted lawyer who had been with the Adeyemi family long before Isaac entered her life. She hadn't involved him earlier because Isaac had insisted on handling all legal matters, a mistake Zara now regretted. "Chidi," Zara began when he arrived later that day, "I need you to go through all my financial records. Everything Isaac has touched, I want a detailed report on what he's done and how we can undo it." Chidi nodded, his face grim. "I've been worried about Isaac's influence for a while, but I didn't want to interfere. I'm glad you called me. I'll get to work immediately." Zara felt a flicker of hope as her allies began to rally around her. But she knew that dismantling Isaac's control over her life and her company would require more than just legal action. She needed to regain her strength physically and emotionally. Over the next few weeks, Zara threw herself into her recovery. She began intensive physiotherapy sessions in secret, arranging for them to take place at a private clinic outside the city. Dr. Nkechi, a renowned specialist, took over her case. "I won't lie to you, Zara," Dr. Nkechi said during their first session. "This will be painful and it won't happen overnight. But if you're determined, we'll get you back on your feet." Zara nodded, gripping the arms of her wheelchair. "I'm ready for whatever it takes." The sessions were grueling. There were days when Zara wanted to give up, when the pain felt unbearable, but the image of Isaac and Linda laughing at her expense kept her going. Every step she took on the parallel bars, every movement she regained in her legs, felt like a victory against the man who had tried to destroy her. Back at the mansion, Zara played her role flawlessly. She smiled weakly whenever Isaac was around, thanking him for taking care of her. She pretended not to notice his late nights or the way he avoided looking her in the eye. Isaac, emboldened by her perceived helplessness, became more reckless. He brought Linda to the house under the pretense of dusting business, laughing openly with her in the study while Zara pretended to be asleep upstairs. But Zara wasn't asleep. She listened, recording their conversations with a discreet device Amaka had given her. Each recording added to her growing arsenal of evidence against him. One evening, Zara overheard Isaac and Linda discussing the final steps of their plan. "Once we transfer the remaining funds, everything will be under my name," Isaac said, his voice filled with smug confidence. "Zara won't even know what hit her." Linda laughed. "She's pathetic. She probably thinks you still care about her." Zara's hand clenched into a fist as she listened. She had to remind herself to stay calm. Her time would come, and when it did, she would ensure Isaac and Linda paid for their betrayal. Meanwhile, Chidi uncovered a web of fraudulent transactions, forged documents, and illegal deals orchestrated by Isaac. He presented his findings to Zara and Amaka one evening. "This is worse than I thought," Chidi said, spreading out the documents on the table. "Isaac has siphoned millions into offshore accounts. He's also trying to transfer ownership of Adeyemi Holdings to a shell company under his control." Zara's jaw tightened as she studied the evidence. "Can we stop him?" Chidi nodded. "We can, but we need to act fast. If he finalizes these transfers, it'll be much harder to recover your assets." Zara's mind raced. She couldn't confront Isaac directly, not yet. She needed to catch him in the act, with no room for denial or escape. "Amaka," Zara said, her voice steady. I need you to arrange a meeting with everyone Isaac has wronged in the company. Employees, board members, anyone who's willing to testify against him. And Chidi, prepare everything we need to freeze his accounts. As her ally sprang into action, Zara allowed herself a small smile. For the first time since the accident, she felt in control. Isaac had underestimated her, but he wouldn't make that mistake again. The day Zara had been preparing for finally arrived. Months of meticulous planning, sleepless nights, and grueling physiotherapy had all led to this moment. Zara sat in her study, a mix of emotions coursing through her, anger, sadness, and a steely determination. The evidence was ironclad, the witnesses were ready, and her strength had returned. She was no longer the vulnerable woman Isaac believed her to be. Zara's recovery had been nothing short of miraculous. Under Dr. Nkichi's relentless guidance, she had not only regained her mobility, but had begun walking confidently again. She had kept her progress a closely guarded secret, pretending to remain dependent on her wheelchair while plotting her next move. Amaka, who had been her constant support, entered the room, holding a file. "Everything is set," she said, placing the file on the desk. "The board members are ready to meet tomorrow, and Chidi has filed the injunctions to freeze Isaac's accounts." Zara nodded, her expression unreadable. "Good. Now it's time to set the final trap." That evening, Zara hosted a dinner at their mansion in Lushwood Estate. It was a rare occurrence, and Isaac seemed genuinely surprised when she suggested it. "Dinner? With guests?" he asked, raising an eyebrow. "Yes, Isaac," Zara replied, her tone light. "I've been feeling better lately, and I thought it would be nice to entertain some friends." "Don't you think?" Isaac hesitated for a moment before nodding. "Of course, my love, I'll handle everything." What Isaac didn't know was that the guest list included Amaka, Chidi, and several key employees from Adeyemi Holdings who had been victimized by his schemes. Zara had deliberately omitted Linda, knowing her absence would lower Isaac's guard. The dinner began on a cordial note. Zara, seated in her wheelchair for appearances, watched Isaac play the charming host, his laughter echoing through the dining room as he poured wine for their guests. But beneath his confident demeanor, she could see the cracks. His arrogance blinded him to the storm brewing around him. As dessert was served, Zara cleared her throat. "Isaac," she said softly, drawing everyone's attention, "I have something important to discuss." Isaac turned to her, his smile faltering slightly. "Of course, darling. What is it?" Zara reached for a folder placed discreetly by her side. She opened it and began distributing copies of its contents to the guests. "These are financial records from Adeyemi Holdings," she said, her voice calm but firm. "They detail a series of illegal transactions orchestrated by my husband." The room fell silent. Isaac's face turned pale as he scanned the documents. "Zara, what is this?" he stammered, trying to maintain his composure. "This, Isaac," Zara said, standing up from her wheelchair for the first time in front of him, "is the evidence of your betrayal. Did you really think I wouldn't find out?" The room erupted in whispers as Isaac stumbled backward, his confident facade crumbling. "You've been spying on me." He spat, his voice shaking. "I was blind for far too long," Zara replied, her voice rising. "I trusted you with my life, my family's legacy, and you repaid me with lies and deceit. You stole from me, you betrayed me, and worst of all, you orchestrated the accident that left me in this chair." Gasps filled the room as the weight of her words sank in. Isaac's eyes darted around the room, searching for an escape. "That's a lie," he shouted, his voice desperate. "You have no proof," Zara smiled coldly. "Oh, but I do. Your journal, Isaac. Your own words incriminate you." Amaka stood up, holding a voice recorder. "And let's not forget the recordings of your little chats with Linda. We have everything we need to ruin you." Isaac's face twisted in rage. "You think you can destroy me? I built this company while you sat around feeling sorry for yourself." Zara's eyes burned with fury. "You didn't build anything, Isaac. My parents built this company, and I will not let you destroy it." At that moment, police officers entered the room, summoned by Chidi. Isaac's face turned ashen as they approached him. "Isaac Adebanjo," one of the officers said, "you're under arrest for fraud, embezzlement, and attempted murder." Isaac glared at Zara, his voice a venomous whisper. "You'll regret this." Zara didn't flinch. No, Isaac, the only one who will regret anything is you. As the officers led him away, Zara felt a weight lift from her shoulders. The nightmare was over. That night, Zara stood on the balcony of her bedroom, the cool breeze brushing against her face. Amaka joined her, a glass of wine in each hand. You did it, Zara, Amaka said, handing her a glass. Zara nodded, a small smile on her lips. Yes, but it came at a cost. I lost years of my life to a man who didn't deserve me. Amaka placed a hand on her shoulder. But you found your strength. And now you can rebuild. Zara raised her glass. To new beginnings, Amaka echoed. As the city lights twinkled in the distance, Zara felt a renewed sense of purpose. She had been broken but not defeated. The future was hers to reclaim, and she was ready to face it head on. We've come to the end of this story. Please subscribe to my channel to support me. Thank you.